I once stepped into a colleague's classroom 6 months into the year and thought to myself, this is exactly how I want my class to run. But I was here.
That's one fine looking barbecue pit. Why doesn't mine look like that?
But it had nothing to do with aesthetics. The kids followed the instructions to a T. They were settled and on task no matter what the setting was. Half the time they didn't even need to be told. They kind of just did. The class was perfect. They were a well-oiled machine of teaching and learning. And this was by no means an easy school. My class looked nothing like this one. And I needed this secret so bad, so I had to ask. But his response wasn't what I expected. He kind of just looked at me, shrugged and said, I don't know, I kind of just do. So it became my mission to crack the code. And after 7 years, I can finally answer the question. How do you create the perfect learning environment that lasts all year long? And I can tell you that the answer is all in your classroom setup. And I know what you're thinking, it's too late for this, we've already started. But the 6 steps that I'm going to share with you today can be implemented at any point in the year. And you're going to see immediate impact in your classroom. And at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can make sure that the hard work that you put in early sticks around for the whole year. This was the biggest mistake that I made when I first started. I had seen all of these wonderful things that different teachers were doing in their classrooms, and I just wanted to try it all. I saw a range of attention grabbers and I saw all these different routines, and it was all stuff that they used seamlessly. So I figured I'd just do the same, try all these different things and just see what worked. But what I found is that I was bouncing around and trying all these different things over weeks and never giving anything a chance to set. And this is what set me back weeks. I would wait until a problem arose and then I would try and fix it. But it was too late then, they were already set. The key is to be prepared for as much as possible and be proactive. You need to know exactly what your rules are, what are your expectations, what are your routines, before you step foot into the classroom. You need to know what your classroom is going to look like and sound like before that first bell rings. And if you're not sure what you want it to look like, wave a magic wand. What is the ideal classroom supposed to look like to you? Make that bar so high and reach for it. Worst case is that you fall short and end up with an amazing classroom anyway. Key is that you can spot the moment to introduce a routine or a rule and you can jump on it. But this is going to help with every single one of the other steps as well. And that's because structure and routine are the backbone of a classroom. Surprise breaks it. What are all the routines that you're going to need to set up for the whole year? And there's going to be a lot. You're going to need to know how all of these things are run. And if you've planned and prioritized, you're going to be able to implement these things straight away. But it's not that simple, because you're going to need to set and teach all of these rules, expectations, and routines explicitly. And this is where it can get tricky, because your classroom's not a dictatorship. Your kids need to have a say. The trick is to get them to say exactly what you want. And because you've planned so well, you know all the rules, expectations, and routines that you're going to implement over the next 2 to 3 days. Your job is just to teach them how to do it. You're going to show them just how high you've set that bar. Whatever the first transition is, you're going to do it like this. All right, you guys are at your tables now, but I want you to come to the floor because I got a couple of things that I want to explain to you, and I've got to make sure that I have everyone's attention. You want them to move ideally from one place to the floor. The floor is for explicit teaching, and the sooner they know that, the better. But as long as they move, you're on the money. Whoa, don't move just yet. You got to listen. Because how I want you to move is like ninjas. Can anyone raise their hand and tell me exactly how a ninja moves? I love that you guys all put your hand up and not one person called out. Have a star. That's right, they move silent. So when you stand up, I want you to come to the floor and move like ninjas. Go. If they nail it, praise. Beautiful, best ninjas I've ever seen. Have a star. If they don't, it's not about yelling and shouting. Worst ninjas I've ever seen. What I want you to do is go back to your tables, move like ninjas because I want you to practice now, and then we're going to do it again, just like ninjas do, silently. Try again, move like ninjas. Perfect. Have a star. It's vital that you teach and practice all of your routines early, and then you stay super consistent with them. It might sound boring, but you can deliver it in an engaging way that makes it entertaining. I love to put a chair in the middle of the classroom and get my students to come up and act out non-examples. Show me what sitting at a table the wrong way looks like, or show me the worst possible way to share an idea. Make it a game and get them to show you exactly what you don't want and what you do want. Tweak it and express what you liked about it. And more importantly, give them a star. Over the next few days, you're going to do this with all your routines and rules. Teach them what you want, show examples and non-examples. Practice them, and if they're not good enough, stop right there, get them to do it again. And if it's correct and it's exactly how you want, give them a star. My system is all about time. If you want to deep dive into my reward system, let me know in the comments below. But whatever your reward system is, it should be happening from the second that they walk into that door. But like I did with the stars, you can reward them with them, but you're not going to tell them why. Over the next 2 to 3 days, you're going to keep them very visible, but you're going to keep it a secret. You're going to build the anticipation so that when you do explain your reward system, they can see that they're already halfway to achieving their goal, and the hype becomes real. Whatever your reward system is, if it's time, if it's dojos, if it's money, Whatever it is, you are going to make it rain. They need to see the result of meeting your high expectations fast, within the first 2 to 3 days. But they also need to know what happens when they don't meet that expectation. What happens if the class's high expectations, rules, and routines are not met? What are the consequences? Explicitly tell them or guide the class into creating the consequences. Pro tip, try to get your consequences to work alongside your reward system. Once you have set these expectations and consequences, you are going to be relentless. But more important than that, you are going to be consistent. You're going to use your reward system to highlight all of that targeted positive behavior, but you're also going to consequence the negative behavior that you want out of your room. Early on, you can't let anything go. Behavior that you look past is behavior you accept, and it's a slippery slope. If you tell them to raise their hand and then they call out, did you answer them, or was there a consequence? It might sound harsh, but kids learn fast. And the consequences don't have to be anything crazy. It could be something as simple as a chatty student gets one warning and then they have to move. But the key is to be consistent and follow up. If you say to them, stay in at recess or lunch for a quick chat about your behavior, and you forget, the next time that you say that, they know that you probably won't remember and you probably won't follow through, so the behavior is not going to change. Behavior management is not about yelling and shouting. It is about being firm and consistent and always following through. And it's essential that you do all these things early because the kids are setting themselves up for a year as well. They're testing you out. They want to know what they can get away with and what they can't. So while you're doing all these wonderful get to know you activities to get to know them personally and academically, you also want to get to know how they work in groups, how they work individually, and who they can and can't work with in the classroom. So the way that I like to do it is that day one, I let them sit wherever they want, but I set the bar so high that they're just not going to be able to get there. They don't know that though. I do. Over the first day or two, I'm going to observe everything. I'm not going to catch it all, but all the really big behaviors and the things that I'm going to need to keep in mind, they're going to start to show themselves very quickly. I'm either going to need to keep these things in mind or I'm going to need to address them as soon as possible. So I'm going to get to know them as fast as I can. And because the bar was set so high, they're going to get to know me very fast too. Because I planned and I'm prepared, I knew exactly where I want every kid in the class to sit. My observation might have changed some things, but I have a pretty good idea of where they're going to go. So the second that they don't meet my expectations, I change it all. And I show them that I mean what I say. You couldn't meet my expectations, so I'm going to change it and I'm going to choose where you sit. You need to earn the right to sit where you like. And I change the room right there, right then, and I show them that I mean what I say. Over the first week, it's essential that you set your class up right. Your expectations need to be sky high, and your routines need to be regimented. But more importantly, you need to be firm and follow through because kids learn quick. They'll learn that you mean what you say, or they'll learn what you're going to let go. And if you want this to last the whole year, you repeat these steps at the beginning of terms or when you find that your class is just getting a little bit loose. Start from the top, plan what you need to change or a new routine that needs to come in, and then follow the 6 steps again. Every classroom setting is different, and every room has different levels of challenging students. But if you stick to these steps, the majority of your class is going to fall in line very quickly. And then they're going to keep this high standard throughout the whole year so that you can execute some perfect teaching and learning.